life is not easy. And sometimes I feel like it's good to reflect. Or fortunately, we grow through those difficult moments. But we can say, well, that was amazing. But we never can say, wow, I was so happy I grew so much, right? It comes from us overcoming certain things that are really hard to overcome and hard to find solutions for that. But I feel like that's what gives us this tremendous sense of self and sense of growth as well. We will feel unsafe a lot of times, but knowing that we're safe in a spiritual kind of way can give us that strength to move forward without knowing the reason why certain things happen to us. But following through and maybe down the line, years, sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years, we look back and we say, oh, that's why. Okay, now I get it. And then when we begin to have this sense of gratitude, I can say that we will always be grateful for some really serious things that may happen in our life, but understanding that, you know what, it led me somewhere where I can use that, not only for my advantage, but for advantage of other people.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about turning trauma into triumph. I'm delighted to welcome Alisa Gracheva. Alisa is a licensed psychotherapist specializing in trauma who offers a holistic approach to mental health. You can reach Alisa at her website, since.life, and on social media. And I'll include those links in the show notes. Welcome, Alisa. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and I'm excited to dive into the most important topic of my life, I would say.
The most important topic of your life. Okay, so I'm excited to hear more about that. I was just
Yes.
enjoying going through your website and learning a little bit more about you. And I would love to hear more about your story. I have this image in my head. It's 2008. We've got this young 18-year-old fresh off the boat, doesn't speak any English, doesn't have any money. Your family is an ocean away. And now what? So can you tell us about why you did that?
Oh, that's a question I feel like I will be answering my entire life. I'm not yet sure, but I feel like I'm gaining a little more clarity based on the work that I do currently with people. And I feel like every experience in our life, no matter how traumatic that can be, can lead us to something much greater, maybe even to our purpose and, lifelong mission that we're all here to kind of find out and execute as well in the world. So yeah, at 18, and actually I thought I was much older than what I actually was. I feel like now looking back, I think, wow, I was very young to do that. But I found that, and that's what I feel like. That's the calling. Sometimes we get those moments that we can't even explain why we do a certain thing, even though that can be a bad decision, or somebody can consider that a bad decision. But I feel like only the label that we put on it counts. So if we label a bad decision, sometimes it's just a decision, and then something much more beautiful can come from that. So that was the beginning of my independent journey, and that led me through a lot of experiences that created a lot of traumatic kind of past for me, but ultimately led me to my mission, which currently, that's why I'm saying that trauma is one of the most important topics of my life, or something that I'm very passionate about, and started with my own journey again. And then that led me to be of service to other people struggling with similar things.
I love talking about trauma, not because I love trauma, but because we all have trauma that we need to heal from, and our traumas can look different. It's sometimes it's something horrific and just one event, and sometimes it's lots of little cuts. So it can look a lot of different ways, but in every case, it's something that deeply wounds us, deeply affects us, and then it's something that we need to heal from. We need to recover. So if I'm listening to your story, was there trauma before you made the decision to come, or was the decision to come what caused the trauma, or do we have a bit of both?
I would say only now I'm discovering, right? I'm 35. At 34, I recognize how traumatic certain experiences of my childhood were, but they were not traumatic in a way of, how sometimes we may feel like, okay, there's something definitely that was wrong with me. Something happened. Something was so bad and awful. And we're trying to find this big event. But just like you mentioned, right, that little cuts, sometimes those little cuts, when they're inflicted in a young child, can cause a lot of disturbance in life in general. And so sometimes we feel like, well, this is something minor, but let's say for a kid, that can be something really, really big. And so what I've discovered that my trauma actually started back when I was 2 or 3 years old. I was very young. And plus also we have to consider transgenerational trauma as well. And again, we all know how our grandparents used to have a lot more traumas than we have right now, yet we feel more traumatized than they are, right? And there's, it's a controversial kind of thing, but it's actually truth. Our grandparents had much more traumatic experiences than we did. And yet again, we struggle a lot to navigate life. And I feel like it's from the rapid development of the world where we're trying to navigate how we feel and how we fit in and how we function. And so, yeah, coming back to the topic, yeah, I've discovered that I've been disassociated since I was little, and I found the ways to really escape how I navigate life just because it was so much to kind of tackle by myself. I was born in Soviet Union, so I got the end of it, but it was a very rough kind of transition from, one part or one kind of structure of the government to another. And so my family definitely had struggles with that. And I feel like that's what created that early on disassociation as well that I've tackled again throughout my lifetime. And then when I transitioned here, other experiences came upon and they created even more of those layers of traumatic experiences as well. And so dealing with that and growing through that was my first step to finding out who I am and how I can be of assistance with what I went through, right? Because I feel like if we're able to really, I wouldn't say relate 100% to people, but we're able to understand where they're coming from and how they might have experienced similar experience or similar life event, that can give us a little more clarity and more compassion too, and being there, assisting people in their journey as well. So yeah, it was many different things I feel like layered up together for me to get through in order to do this work right now.
I am so grateful that you're doing the work and you have gone into lots of different areas, and some are more of what we would traditionally consider of a trauma, and that is
Yeah.
rape and incest. And you have helped people with that sort of trauma. And you
Mhm.
are a licensed psychotherapist, which is awesome. And you are open to using more of alternative methods. And I appreciate that because there's more than one way to do things. And I like having an open mind to say, what what is working for you? Let's talk. Let me know who you are. Let me understand what you've been through. And then let's find something that will work for you. So do you want to share any of your experiences about working in a trauma center and helping people who are dealing with real big, deep, intimate traumas?
Yes. Well, some things that work for me may not work for everybody that I serve, because again, we're all different. But my go-to and always been like that is spirituality, something that I really, really integrate into my life with very different methods that I've kind of came close to understanding what spirituality is for me. Because again, we all have different view of that as well. For some, it can be related to religion. For some, it's again spirituality in a nutshell. And for some, it's just being compassionate and empathetic humans and doing the good deeds. And I had even clients who never thought or considered themselves being spiritual. And yet I'm like, but you do so much good to people. You do so many things for others. And like that's spirituality in its core. And the person was a gentleman who is much older. He's in his late 50s or 60s. And he's like, well, I never thought I'm spiritual. He's like, I'm just learning right now that what spirituality is for him because he was traumatized from, being brought up in a religion specifically. So for him, that was a discovery that led him to start meditating and attending to that part of self that we call spirit, right? Or the soul, whatever we want to call it. So I feel like turning to spirituality can give us a little different perspective than when we try to look at our trauma from a human perspective, because it's very easy to get sidetracked and feel, again, I'm using this word as a victim, right? Because I've been one of those people too. I've struggled to understand why certain things happen to people when I'm a good person. Why did I deserve to have that? Why we can't just have it easy? But life is not easy. And sometimes I feel like it's good to reflect that unfortunately or fortunately, we grow through those difficult moments when we are at peace or we're joyous or we have happiness, right? We can consider different events that can contribute to that. But we can say, well, that was amazing. But we never can say, well, I was so happy. I grew so much, right? It comes from us overcoming certain things that are really hard to overcome and hard to find solutions for that. But I feel like that's what gives us this tremendous sense of self and sense of growth as well. So spirituality always been kind of my faith in general, faith in something greater, right? We don't have to call it anything. We can call it God, universe, Allah, Buddha. You know, we have so many different names for that. But I feel like understanding that it's just there for our highest good and it's leading us somewhere. And out of any situation, only good will come and we're safe. I feel like this is the best way to navigate it because we will feel unsafe a lot of times. But knowing that we're safe in a spiritual kind of way can give us that strength to move forward without knowing the reason why certain things happen to us. But following through and maybe down the line, years, sometimes it's months, sometimes it's years, we look back and we say, oh, that's why. Okay, now I get it. And then when we begin to have this sense of gratitude, I can say that we will always be grateful for some really serious things that may happen in our life, but understanding that, you know what, it led me somewhere where I can use that, not only for my advantage, but for advantage of other people. And I can make a difference with what I was able to learn through this very tough experience.
That was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And by putting it into a spiritual context, that there is something greater that is working for my good. And you mentioned earlier, we can have experiences that are bad or that are good, and all of them can be for our growth and our development as we are figuring out who we are and as we are creating who we are. And that who we are has come up a few times, that
Mm-hmm.
idea. And we are part of something greater. And when you put it in that picture, in that framework, then everything that happens, whether it's bad or good on the surface, can be for our good. And that gives a feeling of, as you said, spiritual safety. A lot of people struggle with anxiety. They feel like, I don't know what's coming next. I don't know what's out there. And that feeling leaves me frightened. And when we put it into that spiritual perspective, it is whatever is coming my way will eventually be for my good, for my growth, for my progress, to help me become the best version of myself. Maybe it's more compassion. Maybe it's doing good. That is huge. First, let's look at our perspective, our eyes, and how beautiful that you put that in a spiritual framework. Well done.
Thank you. But again, I feel like there are so many different things that we can use to navigate that. Well, one of the resources that gave me this, again, I use a lot of existential theory and therapy in my work, and logotherapy is a powerful, powerful tool that I love to turn to, which came from Viktor Frankl, who went through Holocaust, right? And the man's search for meaning and learning about that story. I mean, if I feel like everybody should read that just in case when they're struggling with navigating their trauma and understand what humans can endure and what they can go through and to remain humane and to remain empathetic and to remain compassionate and come up with some brilliant artwork that changed the world, right? His writings, his logotherapy, it changed a lot of things in the field of psychology altogether. And I feel like understanding that we can come out on the other end, maybe with scars, most likely with scars, but with some new realizations and with some gifts that we're going to acquire through going through this process and learning as much as we possibly can, even though it can be extremely difficult and painful. And so I feel like utilizing that, I mean, I love to use spirituality just so it makes better sense if we look at it from that broader perspective than a human kind of consciousness. But a lot of other things should be also used to navigate again those consequences like anxiety, depression, even substance use at times, right? And that's how we attend to when we're talking about holistic kind of way of addressing trauma. It's looking at all of the parts of ourselves. Because I know we go to like church, we go to, meditation centers, to different places to take care of the spirituality. We go to mental health for mind kind of healing, right? We go to the doctor, say, well, this hurts, I need a pill. But we're one human, right? We're one system. And so looking at everything and trying to address all of those areas that may be contributing to the problem, I feel like it's a crucial component of therapy for me, at least. And I like to dive deeper into all of these aspects of the self, whether it's visible or invisible, but putting them together in one kind of system and navigating all of it at once in order to get the best result.
I agree completely. I think that
Mhm.
we still have, unfortunately, a very sectionalized, compartmentalized idea of things. Like I have my physical, I have my social, I have my mental, I have my emotional, I have my social, my financial.
Mhm.
Everything is completely separate and they don't touch. They're, have their little walls between them. And we don't actually function that way. Everything is interconnected. And when one is hurting, it affects the other. And when we heal and progress in one area, it helps everything else. So I love that you're willing to look at the whole picture. It's interesting. It kind of goes back to our perspective. We're starting
Mhm.
with the big picture and we're looking at all of you and who you are. So that's really cool. Do you want to talk about any of the other modalities or things that you're using? Or let's say I'm someone who I've come with some great childhood traumas, and now I am coming to you to say, can you help me? I don't feel like I am worthy. I don't feel like I'm good enough. I feel like, and I have all these stories going on in my head. What would you do to help me feel like I'm enough?
Well, number one is being for that person because again, oftentimes if we feel that way, it's probably that our needs weren't met early on as well, not necessarily just because of the trauma, but in general, I feel like even if we have upbringing that provides us with the vital needs that children can have, like again, being validated, allowing to be yourself and express emotions in the ways that we need to express as children. I mean, we can have anger outbursts, tantrums, all that, but a lot of times uh, parents try to stifle that and try to put it away rather than trying to address and see where it's coming from, what's going on. That can create, again, that kind of box from which we're going to function afterwards because we don't really get our needs met in that way. Again, feeling loved, feeling cared for, right? There's so many different areas that we need to tackle. And if we're learned that we are enough early on and we're taught how to validate ourselves, right? How to know that we are worthy of love, then even if we get into trauma, we're going to be easier navigating the way out of it because I have already a map from which I function. Everything starts with our families, with our parents, right? And unfortunately, again, not every family is how we would like it to be, right? And how we would like this family unit to function. But even then, I feel like it's all important for our spiritual growth nonetheless. And then we make sense of it later on. But as humans, when we struggle with those things, it's really hard to kind of see where that stems from, whether it was trauma, whether it was my upbringing, what kind of coping skills do I have. So I feel like number one is being there for people. And I'm not only there for them in the capacity of a therapist, right? I genuinely care. Everybody who comes my way, I'm with them 100%. I'm with them, from the beginning to an end. And I want them to know that no matter what, it's not just, for me, it's not just a job. It's never been just a job. It's a mission. I'm here of service, so for me, it's very important to make sure that the other person knows that. And so I feel like it grows with time. But then when they have that space and they're able to be themselves without holding back, feeling safe, exposing some of the, dark little secrets that they may have, or whatever they want to call it, right? Some insecurities, some doubts. I feel like that opens up a space for them to even try to look at things from a different perspective because somebody's not judging them, they're there with them. And so then we start to explore different ways of looking at things and utilize different strategies. And I use a lot of different, actually, like mental health related techniques. And EMDR has changed everything for me as far as how I do work with people. Powerful, powerful tool. Again, working with the physiology because oftentimes trauma doesn't just reside in our mental space, it's in our physiology as well. It's the negative neural connections under which we have this negative beliefs. Like you've said, I'm not enough, I'm, abandoned, unlovable, whatever the case is. And it's oftentimes we may understand that mentally, but to break that down, we have to go deeply inside of our body to process that and to work on that. And that's whole entire other area of the experience of working through that trauma as well. Just like changing our thoughts about it, which is again, our beliefs are a lot of ways learned. We're not born with it. We come here and we learn everything as we go. So sometimes I feel like we also get stuck with things that we believe in and we're like, well, this is it. There's no other reality. Well, how did you get to this reality? You've learned that from somewhere or from someone. So if your reality or how you view reality is not serving you well or is not giving you fulfillment or happiness or enjoyment, maybe we can look at other ones and see if they may make sense to you and how you view life and your trauma and yourself. And so that becomes a beautiful, it's a journey, it's an exploration. And there's never going to be, sometimes there is quick results, but still it takes time to process certain things, make sense of it. And it's not just going to be going upwards. It's going to be up and down, still for a moment. And then it goes again up and down. So I feel like we have to give ourselves grace and time and being kind to ourselves too, to know that it's going to be a journey. But I'm willing and ready. Because first, again, I always call this 3 steps: being self-aware, gaining awareness of what's going on, right? What's happening, how it's affecting me. Number 2 is being willing to do something about it, because a lot of people, even when they understand and become self-aware, then they're not really, it's like, I don't want to look into that. That's whatever. It's been a long time ago. Like, it's not important anymore. But if they decide, okay, I want to change that because I don't like how I am. I don't like how I live. I don't like how I view life. And so then it's the third stage that's the most complicated, is being ready to change. Because then we're entering chaos. Then it's going to be, we have to change. We have to overcome ourselves. We have to kind of break the old patterns, old habits, things that are keeping us trapped in that, how I view it, right? And consciously and intentionally begin to shift everything. When everything changes, change everything, right? So we start doing a lot of work on ourselves, and that's not for everybody. A lot of people are not there to do this work, and that's okay too. Maybe it's going to be later down the line, maybe not. Everybody has the right to, attend to life the way they want and the way they feel is right for them. And not everybody is willing and ready to treat their trauma. But if they are, let's do it. I'm with you the whole way from the beginning to an end.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. And you had so many different aspects of this. And the first is the way that you see and interact with each client, each person. I care. I sincerely, genuinely care. I want something good for you. And I think that that's huge. And I'm going to hold space and allow you to be you. I want to see you. I will hear you. I will get to know you. And in this process, we're going to find some stories, some pictures, the way that you are, the way that you see the world, the way that you've experienced things. And now that you are becoming aware, you have a choice. And this choice is up to you. Would you like things to be different? And if someone says, most people, they want things better, but they also want to stay the same. And we're in a position of weighing and measuring of which one do we want most? Do I want to stay the same in my comfort zone with what I'm used to, with what I'm familiar with, because it feels safe? Or do I want a better experience? Not just different, but better. And when they're ready for that, then you bring in your expertise, you bring in your tools. And I love that you were very honest and open in saying this is not a straight journey. There are ups and there are downs. When you are trying to change, there will be some discomfort. There will be some challenges. Be aware of it. And also know that it is better on the other side, that this change is temporary. I appreciate that you brought in that we have different tools, like you bring in the EMDR and also our somatic experiences. I really appreciate the book, The Body Keeps the Score, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. He helped make a more mainstream the idea that our experiences actually become part of our physical being and they affect us, and that we need to heal in order to heal. Like we mentioned earlier, everything is connected. They're not separate. But I'm so grateful for experts who address that part of us, because when we only try to talk, we have limited success because it's our whole body that is affected. So that is beautiful. You've given a wonderful overview of just holding a space. I care about you. And the hope that if you want this, and I respect you, you get to choose, then I have the tools and I can help you. And I love that.
Yeah, I like to give this kind of statement. I don't take credit for success or failure in a way, because again, it's all about what people want to do. And again, failure doesn't mean that you fail to change altogether. But I feel like sometimes, again, we practice the self sabotage. And like you've said about discomfort. And it's again, we're creatures of habit. So that's what we need to remember. Everything is a habit. Like if today, for instance, I'm going to try to go to bed without brushing my teeth, I'm then going to fall asleep because I'm like, oh my God, I need it. Why? Because I'm so conditioned that this is a part of the routine and you can't go to bed without that. And the same will happen if we practice new, healthier routines for ourselves that help us to stay balanced, that help us to grow every single day, right? Because consistency is the key in everything. And I feel like we as humans forget that. We think, okay, it's already here. I don't have to work on it. When I have people who are practicing coping skills and then a year later, if they return or if they come back or if they reach out and like, I don't know, something is wrong. I'm like, okay, what do you do? What's your self-care now? What kind of skills you're using? Well, I'm not using anything right now. I'm like, of course. Well, we have to continuously stay on top of that, just like going to the gym, right? I'm not going to the gym one day and then I expect a perfect body till the rest of the year, right? Or shower. Why we recommend it daily? Because it doesn't last. The same happens with our and spiritual development, mental development, emotional development. Things will come up and we will face challenges regularly, and how we navigate that will predict how willing and ready we were to practice those coping skills that we have. And I love, again, I'm always saying I love trauma itself, not because of like the trauma as we know it, but because I know how the tremendous the growth can be after that. If we allow ourselves to utilize that, we're always evolving. And sometimes people say, well, I don't know if I want to change this part. You're going to change regardless, but which way you're going to change? You can either predict that and make sure that you will create that change for yourself the way you want, or it's going to naturally happen. Because also sometimes if you hear people, it's like, ah, I don't know, I was the same 10 years ago. Are you proud of that? Like, we're supposed to change, right? We're supposed to evolve. And that's the beautiful journey of humans. But yes, we can get stuck with old patterns because they're not necessarily healthy, but they're comfortable, like you said. So again, we just get stuck because it's a habit. But to change the habit, we don't need that much time. We think we do, and we think it's difficult. And that's all the constructs of the mind trying to keep us, again, safe in an unsafe kind of pattern, right? And so if we just allow ourselves, take 2 months, practice that. If you don't like it, you're going to change it in 2 months, but give yourself this 2, 3 months to practice that. And maybe you'll be surprised how well you're doing with that. And maybe you will want to do even more of that, right? So I feel like allowing yourself to take those steps and giving some time, just like with the physical wound, right? We need time. Our bodies know what to do. We just have to trust. We're not trying to, expedite the progress of healing a physical wound. We trust the intelligence within ourselves. And I feel like if we do, of course, we have to sanitize it. We have to make sure to patch it up. But the same happens with emotional wounds that we have. And sometimes if we do the right thing, we sanitize it, we treat it, and then we need to give it some time, but consciously choosing that treatment option where I'm navigating my mind. I'm choosing better thoughts for myself. I'm practicing different self-care routine every single day in order to ensure that I'm healing. But then I let it be for some time. And suddenly we'll look back and like, oh my God, I don't think about that anymore. Or I don't feel the same way I used to feel. And that somatic work, like you mentioned too, yes, somatic is so important. And going in and observing how we feel, that's the self-regulation at its finest. Speaking of that anxiety we spoke about, we cannot have anxiety symptoms or PTSD symptoms in relaxed physiology, period. That's been proven. Stress is not created. If I'm going to tell you, can you please bring me a bucket of stress? What are you going to do? Stress created by our stressful thoughts, and then our bodies constrict. We have this tension. That's why all of us walking around with sore, shoulders, with necks, with pains all over our body. It's not just a physical thing. It can be also a representation that we're going through something that's too intense, and the body is trying to be in that fight or flight response all the time. And for that, it's going to be a lot of things shifting physiologically. So again, learning to be present with yourself, taking the time to learn about your physiology, about your emotions, just in general, getting to know yourself too. Because I feel like we think we know, but then we're so surprised when we're acting out of, not according to our values or integrity or morals. Of course, because you're going into this sympathetic dominance, sympathetic arousal when you're already in a fight or flight response, right? So it's learning what's going on inside and taking that time. You can be the best friend that you will ever have. And if you win over yourself, you will win 1,000 fights. Nobody can break you if you don't allow them. But you have to know who you are and what drives you, what inspires you, motivates you, scares you. We have to know those things about ourselves.
Isn't that wonderful that when we have better information, correct information, then we can recognize that these things, even our stress, when we understand our autonomic nervous system, the way that our body functions, then it doesn't feel like it's our enemy, something that we need to be afraid of. It's just, oh, this is my body trying to keep me safe. I understand what is happening. And now I can choose to respond however will best serve me.
Mm-hmm.
But that combination of learning something new and then doing. I love that you gave an example of brushing your teeth. That is so perfect because it is so easy. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't take a lot of time and it's consistent. We do it every day. And it's something like that. It's not brushing your teeth, but these self-care things can be just as small, just as short in duration of time, but require that consistency in order to get the results that we need to.
Mm-hmm.
That's good advice. So, guys, it's possible. It is possible. They're small, simple things. And if you have correct knowledge and if you're consistent, you will experience change, positive change. Post-traumatic growth is available and you can have it. It's available for you. So we invite people to come and experience the joy, the growth, the progress that is available. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we cover today, Alisa?
I'm available for anybody if they want to get a consultation too. I think we went through kind of a lot of things. But yes, you're absolutely right. Change is possible. It's just reaching out for resources. Take the time, sit with yourself and see what you want to do, right? If there's anything you want to change, find a way. There's always a way. There's always a solution, but we just have to open ourselves up to and finding the strength and courage to say, okay, you know what? Enough is enough. I want to do something differently. And that can be a beautiful beginning for a new journey. So yeah, keep your faith, keep your trust in yourself, and know that change is right around the corner.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much. I appreciate visiting with you today.
Thank you.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Beth Moore. She said, "I am better off healed than I ever was unbroken." Today, I invite our listeners to become better through healing our traumas. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.